Alright, what's up, guys? So this is something I've been working on for days. I've been kind of busy, so I've been touching it up and adding stuff, taking stuff away. It's pretty interesting, really. This is the mind-body connection. How your mind affects your body gets that message and influences your mind. It's really, really cool. So what I'm going to do here is try to tie in 3 different points that I want to make that are closely related to each other, and I think this will be very enlightening. So, all right, this is in the body, okay, mine and yours, body, human body. There are systems, just the same way that there are systems in a car. I'm a mechanic, so this is an easy comparison for me to make. Using the car, we can look at the systems in a car and see how they all tie in together, and it's basically the same thing with the human body. For example, the car has braking system, suspension, exhaust, cooling, power system. You could bust those down into subcategories, have different ways of categorizing everything, whatever. But each system connects to another, right? It's usually through components of the car, like the transmission, sometimes even a carburetor. Which, did you know that a carburetor is older than Abraham Lincoln? When I found that out, it really put things into perspective for me, because, and I'm sorry to go off on a tangent here, but America, founded in 1776, discovered in 1492, which that was the Caribbean, supposedly. If you go by the timeline given in public education, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because if America is roughly 400 years old, how did they build all these skyscrapers, buildings, railroads? The highway system itself should have taken 400 years to build. And then you have these ancient buildings and monuments all over, pretty much over the entire world, that could not be rebuilt today. It makes no sense to me. It never has. Obviously I'm working on something for that. At the same time, if you get on Google Maps and you look at the world, it's really interesting to me how a state is massive and there's only cities and tiny spots throughout the state, and it's usually along a water source, obviously, but it doesn't make sense. But the carburetor being made in the early 1800s is just mind-blowing. If you can really put that into perspective and get what that means, it is just mind-blowing. Sorry, it's fascinated me ever since I found out. So, the system connects to each other, right? Your exhaust system, in one way or another, connects into the electrical system and the power supply, all that. But they all perform separate small operations, and then all those operations happening at the same time and intertwining with each other makes a fully functional car that'll roll down the street. It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful, and it's an incredible achievement. At the same time, making a car is 1,000 times easier than making a man. Of course, that's an estimate. I've never made a person with my hands anyway. We're gonna see why. So, back to the car here, right? You put your key in, you turn the key. That's the electrical system right off the bat. It's your starter, your alternator, your battery. That electricity, the power, goes from the battery, and it kicks all the other system on, right? Like waking up in the morning. When you wake up, your battery's turned on, your electrical system is activated, it wakes everything else up. Once that motor is on in a vehicle, there are thousands of little explosions that happen in the motor, and that's how it pushes itself forward with that momentum, that energy. And that's also how the exhaust is created, is the fumes from the exploding gas. Motors are fascinating to me. I guess everything is, though. The human body, it works in a similar way, with all the little systems that each do their own thing, but then they intertwine in the heart, in the spine, in the brain. And just like the car, the human body has several systems. The exact number varies by how you divide it and what your reason for dividing it is. If you're looking at the brain and you're trying to see what all goes into making the brain function, you're going to come up with a different number of systems and categories than if you were looking at the skin. All those systems work together to create a conscious man. One thing that I really wish that I could express to people is, if you take these systems, right, the respiratory system, the muscular system, skeletal system, digestive system, immune system, if you take those one by one, okay, and you look at them and you say, the immune system, is that you? No, you're not just an immune system. What about the respiratory system? If you take the respiratory system and you get a picture of it, and is that you? No, you're not just the respiratory system. What about the muscular system? No, you're not just a muscular system. Nervous system, parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous systems, you can do that with every system, subsystem, all of them together at the same time. All of them. And it's still not you. The reason that I try to stress that is because you are not any of those systems plus skin. Those systems are just your car. What you are is the spirit that is within them systems. Those systems, sorry. So all those systems, as complex and mind-boggling as they are, all of them together do not create a conscious man. They just create a body. The conscious man is within that body. So, in the same way that the body has all these complex systems that work together, the brain is the same thing. It can be broken down into categories just like the human body can. And so can the skin, and each one of them systems, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. You could break those systems down into smaller systems, and it would be a fractal. It's insane how I love anatomy. So, this fractal here, that is the human body broken down into systems, is a mirror image of the brain broken down into systems and the skin broken down into systems. That same system is visible in the earth, which is the heart, by the way. And then the earth is the same as the universe. They're all the same thing. They all operate the same way with the same systems, the same processes. It's just one big fractal. They all work by the same design. Apparently I need to free up space here. So, the adrenal gland. Okay, this is where we're going to get into the good stuff here. The adrenal gland is divided into two parts, the internal and the external. Okay, the internal is called the medulla, and the external is called the cortex. Same thing as the brain. You got the medulla and you got the cerebral cortex. And a note here is that these glands are the most, in my opinion, the most important part of the body is the endocrine system. The glands and the sympathetic nervous system. The nervous system is how these glands talk to each other. The nervous system uses invisible neurons, and the glands, they communicate with each other through the blood and the chemicals in the blood which the glands produce. Know thyself is the reason. So, for reasons of professionalism, here's a list of the human body, the systems of which we are here to discuss one. This is the most general. Skeletal system, nervous, muscular, respiratory, immune, cardiovascular or circulatory, urinary, interguminatory, it's the skin, reproductive, digestive, and, the most important to this discussion, the endocrine system. Now, I don't know if things are like this the way you are. I'm from Kentucky. We're not exactly on the cutting edge of science here. It was always a big mystery about what glands do. It was like they're there for no reason. And if you ask the atheist crowd, they would say, oh, we evolved to not need them anymore. People are crazy. But what these glands do is they secrete hormones and chemicals. They release the chemicals into your blood, your body. The highest gland, both physically and metaphysically, is the pituitary. It's like a little seed in your brain that releases a chemical that, if there were allegory or a metaphor to explain, it would be like manna from heaven, because heaven is up. So, manna from heaven. And the manna from heaven, the question is, when do you get the manna from heaven? It's when you're dying, right? Just to go to a weird place here, this is something that the QAnon thing was about. They say the elites harvest adrenochrome and all that bullshit. When people hear this shit, they never consider that this is something that someone's telling me to convey something else. Like, read between the lines, you know what I mean? The story is the elites harvest adrenochrome and it's like a drug. Okay? So people go because they love fear so much. They start spazzing out and believing that people actually harvest stuff from children, which is a terrible thing to accuse somebody of, especially someone you don't know because you read it on the internet. You know what I mean? What they didn't hear is there is something inside the body that is released at these times that does things to you. They just immediately accepted it as a literal truth, and not one time did they consider the indirect implications of the accusation. But that's because they're unconscious. They are as unaware as humanly possible. Alright. But just for personal reasons here, I want to ask you, okay, who is it that these elites, there's nothing elite about them, we're all the same, who is it that they were supposed to be harvesting this chemical from? How did they get it, so to speak? All kinds of crazy stories about that. But yes, the answer is the heirs of this world. The ones that this world was made for. That's where they get it from. Anyway, let's move on. So the system here, the endocrine system, is also called by some people the chakras. I'm sure you know about the chakras. They're the same thing. Look and see. For the record, right, I don't know much about chakras, but I have read 24 books on anatomy, specifically the endocrine system. That includes scientific papers, essays, textbooks, diagrams, all sorts of material on anatomy. It's one of my favorite subjects. So, the glands, the chakras, same thing. Look at it. Go look at a picture of the glands, right, where they line up. You got 2 in the head, 1 in the throat, 1 in the middle, 3 down, right? It's 3 low, middle, 3 up. That's the endocrine system. That's the same exact thing with the glands. Chakras, sorry. So the glands, they secrete all these chemicals or hormones, and their efficacy is affected by your emotions. So if you're in a state of fear, the corresponding gland would be ineffective. It wouldn't be as efficient. The same way that living in fear causes the mind to cloud. It gets cloudy. You can't understand. You can't see things for what they are. You see them through that lens of fear. The same way that happens, the hippocampus, it shrivels. Right? We've been over the hippocampus. When you're afraid, your hippocampus shrivels and you can't remember clearly. The same way that fear affects the hippocampus, it affects these glands. The organs are the physical counterpart to the glands, but they are one and the same. The organs do the same thing as the glands, but with physical things like proteins. Physical isn't the right word there. Solids. Things you can touch. The organs, they pass around proteins and physical things, while the glands deal with liquids and vapors. And I use that term loosely. It's like a liquid gas, a gaseous liquid, if that makes any sense. So these are just notes, really. The endocrine system is a complex network of glands and organs. It uses hormones to control and coordinate your body's metabolism, energy level, reproduction, growth, and development in response to injury, stress, or mood. Using this summary to say what I'm trying to convey here, it uses hormones and chemicals to control responses to mood. When you're angry, the corresponding gland fails to produce the hormones it should, and an imbalance is created in the body and then followed by the mind. And that is because it puts stress on the corresponding part of the nervous system that deals with that emotion, that processes that emotion. Anytime you use something, it causes stress. And that's just this world. The whole world works like that. If you use tools, it puts stress on the tools. If you drive the car, it puts stress on the part of the car that you're using. So when you have anger, it puts stress on the part of the nervous system that processes the anger. And then that message is sent to these glands, and it puts stress on the gland, and then the gland doesn't work as efficiently to produce the hormones and chemicals to keep you balanced. I summed that up. For the record here, glands are wired together with veins and all kinds of little slimy shit, and they communicate through blood. And they communicate with the blood based on what's in the blood, the amount of chemicals, the concentration of the chemicals in the blood. And the opposite is the nervous system, which communicates via neurons, little invisible signals. So, here are the glands. Endocrine, not exocrine. Correlated with the chakras. For fun. This is all for fun, honestly. It is for me. Then I'll give you an example of this, the correlation here. So from top to bottom, we have the pineal gland. That's the crown chakra. The pituitary gland is the brow chakra. The pineal and the pituitary are both in the brain. The crown and the brow are there. Thyroid, throat, thalamus, heart, adrenal, navel, belly button. Pancreas is the sagral. Is that a chakra? The sagral chakra. And then the ovary or the testes, depending on the gender, reproductive organ, is the root chakra. Gland. They're the same thing. So, so these 7 here, these correlate to many other things as well. It's not just glands and chakras, okay? Because the inside is a mirror of the outside. If you find something on the outside that there's 7 of, you can correlate it. And as I said earlier, it's all fractal-ish. It's like a fractal. The 7 planets. The 7 deadly sins, those are the actions. How do you say that? So the 7 deadly sins, right? They affect you psychologically and physically, and the consequence of these sins is reduction in the flow of the chemical from the correlating gland. I don't think I said that simply enough, but so the 7 heavenly virtues, those are the behaviors that allow those juices to flow. So think of some things that there are 7 of, and there's usually a correlation. So, like I said, if you Google endocrine system, glands, look at where they're located, and then Google chakras and look at where they're located, you'll notice that they are perfectly lined up, and they're the same thing. When one says, I cannot open my heart chakra, I don't know if anybody says that. I just assume that that's what they say. I don't do chakras because I'm not from the part of the world where they're called that. Where I'm from, they're called the 7 heavenly virtues, right? Because Christian religion is the culture of this place. Same thing. So, opening heart chakra. That's because the chemicals released by the thymus gland are not being produced correctly. So, we find out what chemical is released by that gland, the thymus, and then we change our behaviors so that gland doesn't have that stress on it. Coincidentally, the thymus, the heart chakra, is the center. It's the middle gland, the balance. It deals with chemicals that fight dis-ease, because if you're balanced, you're not dis-eased. Right. Each of these glands secrete a chemical that serves an important purpose. I think that the higher up you go, as far as chakras go, the closer you get to your spiritual roots, and the lower down you go, the closer you get to your earthly roots. That's just a supposition. So as I said, like, I might mess up a few times here because I've been adding and taking away from this like 70 times over the past couple days. It's really something else here. So, the way these glands work together, there is something called cortisol, and you may have heard of that. It's produced by the hypothalamus, the adrenal, and a pituitary gland working together. Each of those glands releases a specific amount of a specific chemical. Those 3 mix together to create this new chemical that does a whole new thing. The amount of each chemical varies, and that's based on the emotion you feel, your mood. those chemicals in a certain combination hit your brain, and that influences your mind and your behavior. The base chemical, this is me trying to explain something that you really can't explain. The base chemical will determine what emotion you would be feeling, okay? And then the two other chemicals added from the two other glands are going to alter that emotion to contain pieces of other emotions. You ever been sad and pissed off at the same time? That's what I'm talking about. The base chemical would determine what the emotion would be, the base emotion, you could say, and the varying amounts of secondary chemicals determine the type and the mixture of the emotion. So you can be angry and sad, or you can be sad and angry and a little upset, disappointed. You can be miserably depressed and angry with a little bit of joy in there. It just depends on these chemicals and how you feel. Of course, there are 7 emotions, one for each color of the rainbow, one for each of the chakras and glands. And the way that the rainbow is a spectrum, the colors, they mix together. It's the same way with these chemicals and with emotions. They blend in different combinations. And this is putting it very simply. Like I said, that is a watered down explanation, but I think it's pretty good for explaining this. It comes down to the components and the amount of these chemicals and hormones that are produced. This shit's incredibly detailed. There's a reason I'm telling you all this. So, all this information that I shared, I did that so I could talk about this, okay? Adrenal burnout, or in medical terms, which is just as nonsensical as legal terms, is called adrenal hypofunction. Pretty easy to figure out what that means. Adrenal hypofunction. And these medical terms, they work the same way as legal terms. There's a root word, prefixes, and suffixes. Once you get it down, the pieces will fall into place. You ever seen a medicine that's like 77 letters long? That it's just a bunch of little words combined to make one big giant ass word. Just like hypofunction. That's 2 words, hypo or hyper, meaning easily overexcited, and function, how it works. So when we get hypofunction, it's easily overworked. Anyway, adrenal burnout is a strange illness called Addison's disease, where this gland doesn't produce those chemicals correctly, and thus one is unable to get the chakra that represents that gland. Which the adrenal, hold on, let me roll up and match up here. Adrenal is the navel. That is the highest of the lower glands, or chakras. I prefer dealing with glands, but I know some people are really into their chakras. So, if your adrenal gland isn't producing the chemicals that it needs to, you're stuck in your lower chakras. Now, this is the symptoms of adrenal burnout, Addison's disease. Those sound familiar. Decreased appetite, darkening of the skin, dark spots, low blood pressure, like diabetes, even fainting, salt craving, which is just weird, low blood pressure, nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, muscle or joint pains, irritability, depression or other behavioral symptoms, of course, body hair loss or sexual dysfunction in women, severe weakness, confusion, pain in your lower back or legs, or loss of the use of your legs, severe abdominal pain, vomiting, and diarrhea leading to dehydration, reduced consciousness or delirium. Now, all of those symptoms they're also symptoms of something that's being used today, and that is the Gates bait, the clot shot, the fad jab, the stroke poke, the dolt jolt, the unhinged syringe. It's funny, I have more Rona jokes, but most of y'all wouldn't get it anyway. Alright, so of course this isn't the only gland that could go off the rails like that, but those symptoms, wow, all your glands can have some kind of issue, and that happens when, as I explained above, these chemicals are imbalanced. And also, as I stated above, the nervous system is how they know the appropriate level of chemicals to produce. So when the nervous system is relaxed, the message to the glands is all is well. They flow freely. There's no stress or fear or worry or anger, and there's no need for any gland to take over, to over or under produce. So, conversely, when the nervous system is strained, your nervous system begins sending mixed messages to these glands, and the glands, receiving this mixed message, produce inconsistent amounts of these chemicals in your bloodstream, and then it's just a chain reaction and a mess. And I'm not even trying to get into talking about the nervous system here, because I will be here forever. Like how there's two nervous systems and they serve different functions, right? And you switch between them. The sympathetic nervous system gets you active and hyper, and the parasympathetic nervous system slows you down and gets you relaxed. That parasympathetic nervous system is crucial. The goal is to be able to switch between them at will. When you don't want to be stressed out or hyperactive, you should be able to not be in that parasympathetic nervous system would take over. Your body start chilling. So, we're going to wrap this up here. Let me check this, make sure we're still on. Okay. So, I want to add some stuff here, and then we're good to go. Oftentimes, the main cause of our stress is our own thoughts. That's my main stressor, you know. Whether that be memories of regret or our egotistical idea of how things should be in our lives, and they're not that way that we want them to be, and so we get stressed. It's always these thoughts that stress us out. Have you ever thought back on something and it makes you mad, and you end up getting drawn into a long vision of how things should have been, what you should have done, and how things would be different? Everybody does. Or you think back when you missed an opportunity that you really wanted to capitalize on, and you regret missing it or not taking that chance, whatever it may be. So the same thing happens. You start to imagine what things could have been like if only you had made it on time to catch that flight, or made it on time, whatever. Or even better, you remember a time when you were youthful and you were having the time of your life. Everything was wonderful. Things couldn't be better. And you just think back on that. That one's a more positive emotion that will overwork your gland. And the other two are negative emotions that will cause that stress on your nervous system, and then stress on your glands, and they'll begin to underproduce, and that's going to cause an imbalance in your body, and then you're not going to feel right, and then your mind's not going to be right. But in both cases, an imbalance will occur. The key to this, I got an email. The key to this is to take no thought. That's how you stay balanced. Whether it be for the evils of tomorrow or the delights of yesterday, the best way to take full control of your mind is to totally shut it down. Then start fresh. If you take 1 hour a day, 4 15-minute segments to just chill your mind out, it will do wonders. what I personally recommend is quiet your mind totally down, totally, like no thoughts whatsoever, and then try to relax your forehead. You know what I mean? Because when you're focused and you're concentrating on something, you can feel it in your forehead. And so when you relax, don't focus on anything, don't think on anything or concentrate on anything. Just, you have to relax your mind. That will have you, that's how your nervous system will get relaxed. Your whole body will become relaxed, and it will basically heal itself. It's something there's a lot of things that you can't explain. People just have to experience it to understand it. You know what I do? When I take my time for my meditations, I sit in the dark, and first thing I do is try to relax my forehead, not concentrate on anything. Just relax my mind. And then I work towards relaxing the body. Start from the bottom, totally relax your muscles in your legs, relax your back, relax your arms, everything, relax everything. Let your body rest. If your body can rest and your mind can rest, you will be much better off. So, as I said again, these glands, I said that wrong. So as I said, again, these glands, these organs, this nervous system, the heart, the brain, the lungs, the skin, all of it, which one of those are you? Is it the respiratory system? Is it breathing? Is it just breathing that makes you alive? Is it just having blood and these organs and glands that put things into your blood? Is that what makes you alive and conscious? The endocrine system, is that all it is that makes a man alive? The skeletal system, maybe, because it holds you up and gives your body shape. Is that what makes you alive, a living man? No, it's none of those things. What makes you alive is inside of all that stuff. None of these systems, these chakras, if you want to call them that, those aren't who you are. Those are just things that you have here. Once this body dies, it stays here. It belongs here to this world and this system that's in this world. It's theirs. This body is theirs. It's the mind and the spirit and the soul that don't belong to this world. And don't give it to them either. Even with the brain, the systems of the brain, that ain't you either. Your brain sends messages to other parts of your brain with neurons and all that. That's not you. That's just something that the brain does. The brain is yours. It's yours to use while you're here. You're renting it. You go to a rental car place and you rent a car, and the brake pedal, you push it, it sends a message to the brakes to squeeze together, right? That don't make the car. That just makes the car do something. It's the same exact way. None of those things are you. We have to stop looking at life, and I know that it's hard to do for some people because it's really scary to some people. They realize these big things, and they get fear, and it shrivels their conscience, and they become asleep. But we got to stop looking at life as we are men with a spirit inside. And that's not the case. We're not a man with a spirit. We are the spirit in a man. It's just something I notice. Even the most bright people that I've ever met and seen and talked to, they talk about a spirit as if it's something external to them and they are the body, as if they are a body that possesses a spirit, when the truth is the opposite. We are the spirit, and we are in possession of the body. Sometimes I wonder if that's why the American Indians had to die, because they had a big religion on spirit. They worshipped the spirit. And we know who came, the people that worshipped the body. The spirit was the secondary, the body was primary. So, I guess that's it though. Like I said, I'm sorry this one was a mess, guys. It's kind of all over the place. Hopefully you got the point there. Your mind influences the things that happen in your body, and in return, the changes go back to your brain, and they play off one another. So when you have a healthy mind, you have a healthy body, and when you have a healthy body, you have a healthy mind. That's what I'm trying to say, in short. I just did it using some complex ass anatomy. I love anatomy. Everybody should study it. But I guess that's enough for today. I love you all. Peace out.